We Saw Something Out at Sea by Christopher Busck Dahlöf. I work on a ship, and I spend a few weeks on board fishing for different fish and then a few weeks on land. It's actually a lot better pay than a lot of people would think, and that's probably because it takes a special kind of person to spend a few weeks at a time out at sea. I'm not a fancy or even a smart guy. I just do whatever kind of work necessary to give me money to stay alive for the next few weeks. Out at sea, I don't really have to worry about making money. I like being out at sea better than I like being on land. There's just too much to worry about on land. At sea, I only have to worry about getting a good catch, or I only had to worry about it. I'm not going out there again. What happened was that me and the crew met up at our ship. We were 7 guys plus our captain, who was already at the ship when we came down there. Our captain started off by yelling, "What are you guys doing being so late? We gotta go now!" We were all a bit confused. We were early. The time was about 10 to 4 in the morning. In this business, that's a bit late, I'll admit, but we were told to be there by 4. But we all rushed aboard and cast off as soon as we could. When we had left the harbor, we asked the captain what he had meant about us being late. "I told you that we cast off at 4, not that you should be here at 4, he answered. Well, all 7 of us told him that he had in fact told us to meet him at 4. He grunted and told us to get ready for a long voyage. He had heard about a new place from a guy he had met a few weeks before in a seaport bar. The captain had told him that he too was a captain of a ship and that they had gotten all kinds of great stuff out of this one particular place in the middle of nowhere. They had actually talked about going out there together with their crews and had actually started talking real business before they went home that night. The guy was killed in a fight on his way home. He apparently bumped into a few unfriendly guys and they beat him up until he stopped moving. This being a harbor to begin with, and not a very pleasant one at that, I think makes you realize what kind of place this is. Our captain had been intrigued by the guy's stories and by the fact that he had never been out fishing in that part of the ocean before. It's usually a place avoided by sailors because of how remote it is, but we decided to go there and try our luck. Now, I told you this was out in the middle of nowhere in the ocean, and that we are usually out for a few weeks at a time. Do you get a clue of how remote that this place is? We had been out for about a week towards the place when we ran into rough seas. Nothing we weren't used to, but still enough to be discouraging. We kept on going and didn't think much of it. The sea kept getting worse and worse. Me and 2 other guys, were thinking to tell the captain to go back or at least go somewhere calmer. Just a day later, the waters calmed down, and we would, by our calculations, almost be there. Our compass had stopped working. It was going absolutely haywire, but we used the sun and the stars to guide us. We couldn't get an exact position, but we had a pretty good idea where we were, we thought. About 12 days after we departed, we saw land. It was about noon and the sun was bright. No clouds, and the seas weren't exactly calm, but not really rough either. The thing was, there wasn't supposed to be land within at least a week's sea travel. We thought we must have read the map wrong, but however we looked at the map, it couldn't make any sense. There was not supposed to be land anywhere near here. We must have discovered a new island, we thought. The island was too big. There were trees, several mountains, and a clear beach from where we saw it. We got really excited, but then logic kicked in. We thought that either we discovered a completely new island, or we had read the map wrong with our broken compass. The latter was more probable. We decided to go to the island and see if we could talk to someone to see where we were. Good thing we found it, we thought, since we were obviously this lost that if we had not seen it, we might not have come home for a very, very long time. As we approached, we started to see the ocean floor. It wasn't very deep, so we decided to lay anchor and row to shore in our little lifeboat. We did feel a little bit like pirates. The sun was out, the sea was calm and clear, and we were heading towards a mystical island that maybe never had been discovered. When we got really close, we saw that it was absolutely deserted. We walked onto the land, and the first thing that met us was the skeleton of a sea turtle. A giant sea turtle. No, a massive sea turtle. It was about the size of my bedroom at home. When we had initially approached it, we thought it was a huge rock or stone or mountain piece or whatever it's called. This was absolutely incredible. We started walking along the shoreline to see if we could meet some sort of civilization. And as we turned a corner on the beach, away from the direction we had arrived, we saw a huge sailing ship. It was laying on the shore. What it was doing there and how it even got there is beyond me. But it was just laying there on its side. We were confused about that for a while when we started going towards it. All 7 of us, plus the captain. We heard a rustle from the bushes, a little bit further away from us on our left, and we all froze. Our captain asked who was there. There was no response. We started looking at each other, and then we noticed that we were now only 6. 2 of us had disappeared from under our noses. I yelled after them and looked at the footsteps in the sand. They had been walking in the back of the group, and we saw their footprints, followed by what looked to have been 5 thick, wet ropes. The rope traces led into the bushes from where we had heard the rustling. One guy sprinted towards the bush and yelled after the 2 who had gone. I hesitated, and honestly, I have no idea why. I was just scared, I guess. He went into the bush, and we heard him scream. He quickly came back out, but he stumbled and fell. Now, this is the worst thing about the whole thing. I honestly don't even believe it myself as I'm writing this. He was pulled back into the bush, and we saw what dragged him. It was a giant octopus-like tentacle, but without those suckers. He screamed even louder and disappeared behind that bush. The trees behind the bush rustled too. They swayed, and I think I heard one crack, but I didn't see one fall down though. Our captain just yelled to the remaining 4 of us to get back to the lifeboat. We listened to him, and we just ran. In that moment, we didn't care about the other 3. We were worried about ourselves. We sprinted as fast as we could to the lifeboat, and we still heard our crew members screaming, along with more trees cracking. As we pushed the boat into the water, we felt the beach shaking, and the giant sea turtle skeleton was pushed away by another one of those green tentacle things that was lying under it, hidden by the sand. We rowed as fast as we could, and we saw one of the guys that had disappeared first come running around the corner. His clothes were ruined, and he looked like he had fought a gorilla. We could tell he was moving as fast as he could towards us, but he was not fast. He was limping as well, when a giant head came up from the forest. And when I say giant, I mean enormous. The head was so large that it could actually lay from the forest and reach the ocean without stretching. It looked soft and moved. I thought it was another tentacle, but it actually rolled towards our guy who was running, and it kept rolling towards him, and eventually it rolled over him. It crushed him. I think it was a head because when it had rolled over him, it opened an eye. A big one. In the middle of the tentacle. We rowed as fast as we could, and we reached our ship and left the island as fast as we could. We looked back and saw that the thing was still trying to get loose. The trees, grass, and everything had grown around it. It fought to get free from the island, and it eventually did. It didn't follow us though. It crawled out into the ocean and swam the other way. I can't describe what it looked like without thinking I'm losing my mind. We all managed to get home eventually, and now I will never go out into the sea again. I have to tell this story somehow. I tried to talk to the cops, the government, even marine biologists. They all thought I was crazy. They are looking into the disappearances of our 3 crew members, but I think they are starting to believe that we killed them. I don't know what to do. I don't want to go back to jail, and I can't be quiet about what I saw. I need to warn you not to go into the ocean. It's out there now.